Hey everybody, I hope you had a fantastic holiday season. I hope your Christmas and your holiday festivities were full of joy and merriment because as you know, 2026 is around the corner. It's the end of 2025 and usually means a lot of things. It usually means reflection of the year and, wondering what's going to happen next. And also a bit of worrisome because we know the direction of where Mark Carney is taking the country not going well. It's not going well. And 2026, even though we haven't even gotten there yet, doesn't look promising. It does not look promising. And I don't want to be the Debbie Downer that, tells you all the bad news, but you kind of already suspected what's to come as the year end is wrapping up and we go into the next year. So, per typical usual end of the year festivities is when the news networks, the mainstream media, does their annual sit down with the prime minister. That's like, kind of the year end wrap up. What do you think about this term? What do you think? What are you hoping for the next term? What are you promising for Canadians? That just the kind of usual wrap up that goes about. And Global News did their wrap up with Mark Carney here, and they did it in a just a way that just shows how biased they are. It was just basically a tongue bath between global national anchor Dawna Friesen and Mark Carney. Like, there was no tension, there was no rebuttals, there was no real journalism. It was like catching up with a coworker without any real journalistic integrity whatsoever. And I just want to show some of this because it's just downright, as we're ending 2025, as people are, striving to survive, as, grocery prices are skyrocketing, inflation's run amok, jobs are being scarce, youth unemployment, the highest it's ever seen. The country is just running off a cliff. There's a lot to, if you had a chance to sit with Mark Carney, there's a lot of things you'd be grilling him on. But of course, that's not coming from Dawna Friesen of Global News. So let's take a look at some of this. It is sped up because it's just a long conversation. But here's some points to be made about this. By the way, gotta love the outfit there. Gotta love the Hillary Clinton-esque casual pantsuits as she's standing in front of, the Aboriginal art here. And that's the other thing, too, about this interview, is they went out of their way to go to the museum in Ottawa, or Gatineau, I guess. That's the other side of the river there, in Gatineau, Quebec. And it is not only just a tongue bath for Mark Carney, but it's also just so much virtue signaling for the Aboriginal people. Now, I have nothing against recognizing Aboriginal people. I think they should be recognized the same way that all Canadians are recognized. But the way they do this, and the thing that frustrates me the most, is how they're using this as a measure of just virtue signaling. They're not using it as a measure to actually help Aboriginal people. They're not, using this platform and standing in front of the artwork here and the display by saying, hey, there's Aboriginal communities, there's tribes out there that don't have fresh water. Maybe the government should do something about that. They're not using it for that. They're using it as an excuse to say, well, we care about the Aboriginal people, and that's why we're going to do this whole, production value to this without actually lifting a finger. It's kind of the same way how Joe Biden created Juneteenth, thinking that's going to stop slavery or, not oppress black people more. Even though Joe Biden is a racist politician, even though Joe Biden created the 1994 racist crime bill, that a lot of the reasons why black people are oppressed is because of people like Joe Biden. But anyway, let's see this.
2025 was a year of political upheaval for Canada. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau resigning triggered a snap election, and a leader brand new to the political game stepped in. Prime Minister Mark Carney was immediately thrust into the front lines of an epic battle with Washington. He declared the U.S. is no longer a reliable partner, and right now there is no end in sight to that trade war. Across the river from our country's center of political...
So, that was a psyop. That was a psyop. This idea that, hey, we're just going to cut off the trade with our largest neighboring partner, with the people that buy most of our exports that we've been in relationship with since the dawning of both our countries. That was all a psyop. That was all a political psyop to get Mark Carney elected. That was a psyop so that they can foment this discourse of, we got to separate from America. American culture is infecting us. That's what they're doing right now. They're saying that social media is affecting Canadians. Why are they doing that? Because they want control of the narrative. They want to take control. They don't want people to look at X accounts in America or look at social media posts or look at other people or maybe watch, independent podcasters and get their take of things. So that it's all a psyop. It's all a psyop. And when you look at the nit and grit of this trade war, it could have been easily resolved. They could have fixed it on day one. They could have easily not pushed this in the direction that it is right now. But Mark Carney and Donald Trump purposely did it for their own idiotic intentions.
Political power sits the Canadian Museum of History, temporarily housing Inuit cultural items reclaimed from the Vatican, and a grand hall devoted to Indigenous cultures of the Pacific Northwest, including BC artist Bill Reed's sculpture, The Spirit of Haida Gwaii. Of it, he said, "The boat goes on forever, anchored in the same place." The sculptor was well known as an advocate for Indigenous sovereignty and land rights, a fitting location for our year-end interview with the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, thank you so much for taking time with us.
Thanks for having me, Don.
This time last year, you weren't in politics. Fast forward to today, and you're at the very heart of it. What have you learned in the last 8 months, and what is...
They're already giggling. Dawna Friesen said, last year you weren't even in politics, but now here you are now. It's almost like you were installed. It's like I just came out of thin air, told and lied to people that I was going to fix their problems, stole an election. Oh, did I say that out loud? I meant properly went through the channels of democracy. I did the right thing. Just ask Ruby Dalla. Just ask the incumbent from Nepean that I stole his riding. I did the right thing. I just came in at the nick of time. I'm solving the problems that were kind of created by people like me and Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland and Steve Guilbeault and all these other nefarious crooks. I'm solving the problems that I created. But it just so disgusting. It's so disgusting. Let's see some more.
Surprised you the most about being Prime Minister?
What have I learned? Well, I'll tell you what has surprised me the most, even though having been around politics for a number of decades, in other words, when I was a civil servant, when I worked at the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, etc., I dealt with prime ministers in various ways. So I had a sense that the job is 24/7, 365 days a year. It's one thing to have that sense, it's another thing to live it. So in that respect, it is a surprise. There's just a host of issues that I'm sure we'll talk about, a subset of them today, that are on my mind that I need to make sure that the government is dealing with, anticipating moving forward. So that's probably the biggest surprise. And then, of course, the other aspect of being a politician is how you express those issues, how you speak with people and engage. And look, I'm not perfect at it. I think you figured that out, and I'm sure I'll demonstrate that in the coming minutes.
You called yourself a politician, though. You didn't used to do that.
I am now a politician. I am Prime Minister, so yeah. I am a politician, but I'm still a pragmatist.
It would be...
Well, I'm like a politician now. Like I'm sitting in the big chair and I get to talk about words and I use big fancy words like yeah. Like it's literally insulting to almost watch this. It's literally insulting that they did this right around Christmas, nonetheless. Right around Christmas, when they're writing articles to tell people and lecture people, hey, I know times are tough, but maybe you should sacrifice that Christmas dinner. At the same time, they're doing this stunt. This propaganda stunt. Oh my God. It's like you came out of nowhere and then you became prime minister and now you get to, rule the country with an iron fist and screw over people. Oh, man. I don't know how. I don't know how anyone can look at this and feel like pride or gratitude or anything to think that this man is capable of being an effective leader. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't even know, Well, I know why Dawna Friesen is not going to actually do any pushback with this. We know why the mainstream media is not going to touch, Mark Carney and follow up with any, real scrutiny or questions. This is insulting. This is insulting for the average TV viewer. I'm sure they're looking at this and going, wow, that's just messed up. That is just messed up. I want to fast forward a bit, though, to a certain part here. We go this part here. By the way, notice the emphasis on all the Aboriginal. They're doing this intentionally. That's virtue signaling. Oh, look at it. We care so much about First Nations. We care so much about it. We're in front of their artwork, for God's sakes. But not enough to give them clean water. Not enough to actually fight for their security. Not enough to actually recognize them as regular Canadians and incorporate them. Instead of trying to segregate them into this separate group that you're now using the opportunity to virtue signal to make yourself look good without actually doing anything. That's what Global News is doing. That's what all this is about. They could have done it anywhere else, but no, they're intentionally going to do this as a virtue signaling piece of garbage propaganda to cover up the fact that they really don't give a damn about the Aboriginal people of Canada. And if you look at the history, you look at all the conflicts, a lot of people will say, there's a lot of tensions and, land grab and, well, what about, the colonists that come over? We can go into detail about that. But that happened in the past. And the fact that there's issues right now that they could be dealing with, and they're completely ignoring that to just manufacture this gobbledygook, just makes it worse. Again, it's just like Joe Biden with Juneteenth. Does it actually help black people? No, not really. But it gave the federal government an extra day off. It's like Truth and Reconciliation Day. How you guys are supposed to honor and reflect and feel bad about the Aboriginal people, the children that were taken and brought to residential schools. Oh no, I'm going to go vacation out somewhere outside Canada. I'm going to take the day to make myself feel good while the rest of you get lectured about it. Anyway, I want to show people this.
I do want to get to the question of the memorandum of understanding with Alberta for the pipeline. Do you look like a hypocrite for backing an expansion of the oil sands after spending so much of your career warning about the dangers of climate change?
Well, not at all, because what I've said consistently is that the world is going to use hydrocarbons for coming decades under any scenario. Net zero, 1.5 degree scenario, IEA's scenario. It's in the variance of 25, 30 million barrels per day of oil, down from 100, but still being used. First point. Second point is, what kind of oil or hydrocarbons are going to be used? Low cost, low risk, low carbon. Third point, low carbon, crucial. If we are going to continue to supply hydrocarbons, it needs to be low carbon. That is why at the center of the memorandum of understanding.
So, what that sounds like to me, because Dawna Friesen asked him about the pipeline. Well, you're this net zero guy who disapproves of pipelines, but yet you stroke a deal with Alberta to start building pipelines to get the crude oil from Alberta out to BC and elsewhere around the country, which would help sustain the actual country and provide a better economy for everybody. His response is basically a word salad to say, we're not really going to do the pipeline. That's what this is. There's a bunch of excuses. Well, if we're going to do that, we're going to make sure it's low carbon. And if it's low carbon, then we got to make sure. Blah, blah, blah. That's all mealy-mouthed nonsense. And by the way, carbon is not the problem. Carbon is what is needed for human beings to survive. Like, that's basic biology. Basic biology. Carbon dioxide provides oxygen provided by trees, provided by nature. That's what keeps the cycle going. And if you want to eliminate carbon, you're going to eliminate oxygen. Hence, why it's dangerous for us to be in a low carbon state, to be net zero. But again, Mark Carney does not care. Mark Carney does not care. He probably only did the pipeline deal to shut people up. Even though he knows that that's going to backfire, he's going to make up some excuse. There's going to be some proposal in Ottawa that says, well, he can't do this. And here's some more excuse.
Is pathways, which take 16 megatons of carbon out, the equivalent of 90% of the cars and trucks in Alberta off the road, and that these are low carbon barrels. In other words, the production and the transportation of that oil.
It's clean oil, I think is the term that Alberta uses.
Yeah, decarbonized oil.
Yeah.
Now, so that's, and then what else we've done, because the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, it is the pipeline, it is pathways, a potential pipeline is pathways. It is a 6.5 times increase in the effective carbon price. It is 75% reduction in methane. It is interties with the clean grid of British Columbia. It's nuclear investment in nuclear power as well. So it's a comprehensive approach to medium-term energy, which is a lower carbon energy.
But climate change is not the urgent political issue that it once was. It's not on the top of everyone's agenda now. In this moment that we are in, countries are pulling back from their net zero commitments. Many countries haven't made their emissions targets, including Canada. So where are we at on that?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, globally, we're off track. Exactly what you said. The ability to keep temperatures below 1.5 degrees is slipped away.
So again, Mark Carney making up excuses, trying to drag people in to this false climate agenda, which has been nothing but a disaster. Except if you're, cashing in on all the taxes that, put upon us, all the carbon taxes, and then when they got rid of the consumer carbon tax, they didn't get rid of carbon taxes. You still have them. You still pay for them. But now it's hidden from the general public. That's all they did. They hid it from the general public. You still pay for it because industry still pay for it. The consumer stores still have to pay for it. The truck drivers still have to pay for it. And all that burn eventually goes down to you. It's a domino effect. So that's Mark Carney just making up excuses to not fulfill the pipeline proposal. That was him lying to Alberta. That was him lying to the country to once again screw over the nation. And this is the same guy as he's talking about, decarbon oil, and we got to, lower the carbon, and we got to do this, and we got to do this, and, we got to worry about taxes and the planes and the trains and the automobiles and this and that. The same guy that ran Brookfield that has huge stakes in fossil fuel production in other countries. So this guy doesn't give a damn about the climate. He doesn't understand science. He doesn't bother to actually fact check what he's saying there. This is just all coached by the WEF in this insidious agenda that's screwing over the nation. That's what this is. And, of course, Dawna Friesen barely pushing back. Barely pushing back. You would think you'd follow that up with, well, if other countries are dropping their, global climate initiatives and they're backing out the Paris Accord, why are we still committed to it? Because clearly some other countries have better means, and they're not having the emission problem. By the way, all the years that we've been doing the carbon taxes has not lowered emissions. It hasn't. It's just a complete manufactured falsehood that was put in place to oppress people, to make it look like you're doing something worthwhile for the planet, but it doesn't do squat. There's one more other thing that I wanted to show before into this. We
are here in this gorgeous hall at the Museum of History with the history of the Pacific Northwest people here. It's their history, but the people who live there now are looking to their future. And some of them, are opposed to another pipeline, do not want that happening to their coast, believe that the rewards go to Alberta and they take all the risk. What's your message to them?
Well, we were talking beforehand, my family, my parents from BC, and extended family all up and down the coast interior on Vancouver Island as well.
Whoa. Hold on. He just said that his parents are from BC. He originates from BC. I love this game of like whack-a-mole trying to figure out where exactly Mark Carney was raised. Because first he said it was Edmonton. Then he said Winnipeg. Then he said somewhere in the Northwest Territories. Then I heard someone talking about him being his father being raised in the Yukon. Now he's saying BC. Like, I'm sorry. Is this guy even a citizen of this country? You can't just land on a certain place and commit to it? Does he have like a dartboard with the map of Canada? He just picks one at random? Okay, today I'm going to be from BC. Tomorrow, Fredericton, New Brunswick. What is that? What is that? You're the Prime Minister of Canada and you don't even know where you were born and raised in this country? That just makes it more suspicious. That makes it more telling. Not considering the fact that you have 3 different citizenships. 3. As the Prime Minister of Canada. Just saying.
So have some familiarity, let's put it that way. The first thing is that what the MOU does with Alberta is it creates some of what are the necessary conditions in order for, amongst other things, a pipeline to be proposed, but not the sufficient conditions.
Meaning it won't necessarily get built.
Right. Well, meaning the following, which is that for a pipeline to be built, the industrial carbon price has to be on this path to increase in Alberta. Secondly,
so that right there just confirms there's not going to be a pipeline. There's not going to be a pipeline. They're not going to do any of this infrastructure. That right there. Oh, well, so if we have to do it, we'll have to increase the carbon taxes. Just more mealy-mouthed excuses. And of course, Dawna Friesen's just going to sit there and take it. If you were an actual journalist, you'd be upset and angered by this. You'd be upset and angered. The first thing you'd be mentioning about, hey, we're doing this around Christmas time. There's articles about people starving in the streets in this country. Hey, maybe we should be focusing on inflation. Maybe focus on if people can afford a Christmas dinner. Maybe talk about that. Maybe talk about how families have been divided, systematically divided for how many years now because of these psyops, this propaganda, the manufacturing, the sowing the discourse that's separating, dividing the country. Maybe talk about that. But no, let's spend the next 10 minutes talking about how glorious this museum is and all this great art that came from the Vatican, how much we appreciate Aboriginal people when we don't. It's just so phony, ladies and gentlemen. Just so phony. And I just want to show people this. That before Mark Carney even became Prime Minister, I've showed this before. This is former Prime Minister of the UK, Liz Truss. And she was on with Glenn Beck. And she warned us about how Mark Carney was going to operate. How Mark Carney was going to govern. How Mark Carney intentionally wants to take over Canada for his own enrichment. That he's not actually there to serve the people or be an effective leader. And she knows this because Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of England while she was Prime Minister. And here's what she said about it.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain of the governorship of the Bank of England. He created a lot of the problems that blew up on my watch and that I got blamed for were actually created by him. He backed Labour in the election and Rachel Reeves's policies, which are leading the country to bankruptcy. So why on earth the Liberal Party of Canada has selected this man, I have no idea. And I think it is illegitimate that this guy has never been elected as a member of Parliament in Canada.
He almost bankrupted England as the governor of the Bank of England under her watch. And here he is as Prime Minister doing this to the country. Can't say you haven't been warned, but people intentionally just the information just flies off them. They just don't care. Oh, elbows up. We got to worry about Trump. We got to worry about, the trade war. Mark Carney's going to save us with the trade war. That's why he goes down to Washington and giggles it up with Trump and never comes out with an actual proposal. Because we know how phony that is. It's all fake and phony, as they say. Fake and phony BS manufactured guck. That's what all this is. That's really what all this is. I mean, it's just so erroneous, and even more so that you see the news networks just giving him a tongue bath. I mean, we saw a little bit of pushback with Rosemary Barton of CBC that one time the CBC actually did quality journalism and actually followed up with a question with Mark Carney, and Mark Carney basically told him to shut up. And that was it. That was it. CBC, tucked their tail between their knees, and they learned their place. And the same is happening with global news. Same's happening all over. And just the obvious tone of this. Here is Dawna Friesen just days before the interview with Mark Carney. Here she is with Pierre Poilievre. Now watch how she responds with him in comparison to giggling with Mark Carney.
Mr. Poilievre, good to see you. Thanks for taking time with us today.
Likewise, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thanks, you too. 2025, let's talk about it. It hasn't been the easiest year for you. The Conservatives did receive 41% of the popular vote in the last election. You have a lot of loyal support right across this country, which I'm sure you're very proud of. Mm-hmm. But you didn't win the election, and you didn't win your own seat. That would be a big blow to a lot of people in your position. Have you reflected on what went wrong?
Well, I have reflected, and you're right, it is a big blow to a lot of people who voted for, in record numbers actually, voted for affordable food, affordable homes, safer streets after 10 years of inflation and rising crime. And so we always reflect on how we can continue to inspire those 8.3 million people, a record number, who voted for us, but how we can inspire even more. And so my message for the year to come will be one of hope. I think people desperately need hope, hope that they can afford groceries, hope they can afford homes. And many have put hope in me in the past, but we have to keep inspiring them so that more will do so in the future.
What I meant with respect was a big blow to you personally.
Did you see that? Dawna Friesen laughing up with Mark Carney, giggling about the fact that, he just came out of nowhere and then he became a prime minister. That's so funny. That's so funny. And here she is with the official opposition. Well, did you reflect on how you lost the election? Did you reflect on how you lost the election? How did that blow you? How did that feel for you? Do you see the obvious bias for this? Do you see how scummy this is? And, Pierre Poilievre, I could say a lot of things about him. And there's certain things that, may have cost him his seat. I know they're not going to talk about the long ballot initiative crap that went on that cost, Pierre Poilievre his seat. You notice how that never took off in any other riding, except for the ones that Pierre Poilievre's in. Ironic. But it's intentional. They're doing it because, we're trying to protect democracy in Canada. That's why we're only targeting the conservative leader, the most popular conservative leader in the Conservative Party history. It's just so, again, all this is fake and phony and BS. And here's just global news as they're yucking up with Mark Carney about how he just came out of nowhere and this pipeline, I don't think it's going to happen. And, the country is just going haywire under me. And I'm not going to actually ask you some follow-up questions. But, with Pierre Poilievre, obviously, you lost that seat. How did that feel for you? Even got the book out. Come on. It's so messed up. It's so messed up. It's so fake. It's so garbage. Virtue signaling, just absolute disaster. And of course, it's just another punch in the gut during the Christmas season as people are striving to survive, as, rent prices are going up, groceries are going up, inflation's going up, home heating bills are going up, everything's going up. Life is becoming more unaffordable in this nation. And global news knows this. All the networks know this. They're not going to acknowledge that with the prime minister. Because Because why? The prime minister is going to shush them, going to tell them to get back in line. They're going to lose their extra funding from the government. Just so utterly sad.